Alright, let's start with 15b. So we know that over time, political units got larger and larger, growing from tribes to chiefs to city-states and finally to empires. These larger units led to imperial economies which dominated the world to about 1300 AD. There's several examples of these empires we can list, each with their own metropole and colonies. Some of them include the Roman, Chinese, Byzantine, Byzantine Empire, the Islamic Caliphate, and the list will go on and on. Pretty much empire you can list throughout history had some sort of imperial economy. Right? The size of these imperial economies, the sheer geographic size and sheer area of them, mean they're much more complex and much more diverse than perhaps a small-scale agrarian culture might be. Because of that size and because there's different economic activities happening in different areas, they include some elements of capitalism. You might buy and sell goods in one part of the empire to make a profit in another. Merchants came to prominence during this time, and you also have artisans, right? Skilled craftsmen who work with goods to make them more refined and make them worth more. So they're also involved in that profit-seeking behavior, but not necessarily as deeply as merchants might have been. Right. As an example of what we're talking about, this is a figure 15b1, also on page 326 in your book. Shows you a short diagram, or a brief diagram of the Roman Empire. Shows you what economic activities are happening where. If you start in the northeast, you've got some trading products. You've got, iron. You've got grain. You've got more iron and things like that. All throughout here are different products made throughout the empire, and different projects, obviously, that they could trade within the empire in order to make more profit. What I'd like you to do is turn to page 326 and observe that figure, and I'd like you to write at least 3 statements that describe diversity in economic activities that exist in the Roman Empire. So, for example, you could say that in the northeast they tended to produce more iron, while in the north, you saw more metals and hides and things like that. Or you can compare that to the west, where there was more grain and other things produced as well. In short, your job is to compare and contrast what happens throughout 3 different areas of the Roman Empire. Please go ahead and pause and take care of that. Alright. So, in time, as these economies continue to grow, a form of capitalism takes hold, and we call that a capitalist commercial economy, which comes along first. It is concerned with the buying and selling of commodities. In other words, it is concerned with the buying and selling of pretty much anything that can be traded. So, again, if you have that gold in one part of the Roman Empire being traded for grain, if you have ivory or iron or something else being traded for other goods, that's an example of a capitalist commercial economy. But over time, industrial systems begin to develop as well. In these cases, we are looking at goods or industries that have some kind of input, and then the output is what is sold for profit. So, for example, you could look at wood as an input, the chairs made from that as the output, right? That chair being an industrial product because it's been machined and worked, and because it requires raw materials. And the selling of that is what leads to the profit there. So first you develop trading of commodities, just basic raw goods, and then you form an industrialist economy which relies on this manufacturing, relies on the reworking of those goods. So the need for those materials created different relationships. You saw places that started producing goods, these industrial places started to make profits, while places that had resources extracted from them, because they have nothing else to sell other than those resources, they end up a little bit poorer, and that sets the stage for a lot of a lot of the income inequalities that happen not only throughout the empires, but also kind of sets the stage for what happens globally as the world continues to develop. There are some alternatives to these capitalist economies, though. We hit on this some when we talked about political ecology of the state. There are planned economies, typical of Maoist China, USSR, where things are publicly owned. These are kind of on par with your communist economies, where everything is centrally planned, where decisions are made for you rather than you having the freedom to make those choices. There's also mixed economies, which are nominally capitalist but have free government interventions, and we're probably a great example of that, in that we offer free public education, but there are some things restricted. You can't do anything you want to meet. You've got laws to follow with that. A better comparison of these lies in Table 15b1, and that would be really helpful for completing your guide to readers for the day. Go ahead and take a look at that, and message me if you have any questions.